today we're going to cover the networks aspect of Sharegiver Solutions,
Right.
which, in my mind, everything kind of comes back to mindset, but the networks, and you'll explain a little more detail, but there are two primary networks, friends and family, who can share in the actual overall process of
Right.
sharing and caring. But then there's the global network, and we're hoping to capitalize on those 16 million other family member caregivers who typically feel they're on an island.
Right.
And beyond anything, I want them all to realize that's the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah, there's actually, I think there's even more than two, although creating a personal network is first and foremost, and it really, I think, goes right to the core of what we're talking about, of sharing this experience. I think it does go, as we'll talk, beyond just friends and family. I think it goes to also creating a team of professionals that are also around the care you're providing and the person to whom you're providing it.
How does that work?
So,
how's that been your situation?
So, for example, I have the Barbara's family doctor, who I've had to make sure is really fully apprised of her situation and can help me in terms of what medicines she requires, and even renewing a prescription. I have to have people that are ready, that really know what she needs. From a legal point of view, I have to make sure that our family lawyer and others, that powers of attorney and wills, living wills, and all documentation is current and real, and track it as I go. And typically they're also invested, if not as friends, as having personal relationship with both of us.
Yeah.
So when I think of creating a personal network, a support network, there are different aspects to it.
Yeah.
But all of
that kind of falls in the game plan aspect as well.
Yeah, it definitely
know where you need to be
definitely
prepared and covered.
It absolutely crosses over. But when I think of a personal network, I think of people that we are in relationship with, that I can call upon to help.
Yeah.
And that help may be bringing a dinner over when it's hard for me to maybe do that properly or as well as it could be. But the converse is, it's giving somebody a chance to help in a way.
I think that's such a big point.
Yeah.
I know we talk about it, about how giving is, better than getting in so many ways. There's a lot of truth to it. People want so badly to be able to help their friends. And in this case, it's more complicated because they're not prepared. They don't know how.
Correct.
And that's part of the implementation.
Correct.
Of
I
the
mean,
whole...
so let's break it down. I'm talking first about creating a personal support network, and that's the way I think about it. Because, as you said, number one, as the Sharegiver, I want to be really smart about making my job easier and utilizing the support that's around me and thinking about what I need as well.
Making the job and your life
and
easier.
My life easier. And there's many aspects to this that we'll get to, but I would say underlying all of it is that there are people that want to help, and there are people that have a responsibility to help, but they need to know what you need. But the desire is there. It's like giving people a chance to give.
Yeah.
I would say in creating a personal support network, I think there are clear steps that I've learned and I continue to learn. First is doing your own analysis of what you need
Exactly.
and from whom. It's sort of like creating a map.
And I think that's where you're going to be critically helpful.
Right.
Is in reminding people what they're going to need to prepare for.
Correct. Creating a map of what you need, and then alongside that, going through your personal relationships of what people could provide, some of those specialties.
You know, it's different from asking people to give. I mean, we've been on board of directors where you're obligated to ask people to actually give money.
Right.
That's not what you're asking from anybody.
No.
You know, this is different. You're asking to give of their time and of their heart.
Right. Right. So, yeah. So I have, and there's a lot to this because first of all, you know, I think of this as building a network. Okay, and so I'm sort of diagnosing what my situation is and what I need and mapping it out, and then putting names and specialties and interests and capabilities to it, and which may, for some people who really enjoy this, and in fact I'm speaking from personal experience because people in my temple now, all I had to do was tell somebody. They asked me who does dinners in my house. I said, well, I do. And they said, oh, okay, so what did you make last night? I said, well,
Leftover pizza.
I cooked a couple of frankfurters, I chopped them up and put them in a can of beans. They said, you need help. So now I have people that...
Nothing against Franks and Beans.
Not which we love.
Of course.
But so now I've agreed that different people are going to provide dinner on Friday night. They asked, what's the best, how often? I said, okay, once a week.
You know what? To invoke our now mutual friend Don McMillan, you're giving people a purpose also.
Yeah.
Which is the most valuable thing you can give somebody.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's many different ways. It's give and take from you're giving them a purpose. A religionist might say, giving them a blessing.
If you wish, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, there's many different aspects to this. There are some people that's what they're comfortable doing. There are other people that would want to spell time, give you respite, as it's called, and for those. And really for everybody in your network, I think it's really important for people to understand what the goal is, what you're trying to do in building this network, who else is in this network, provide some training and coaching of where we are.
It's a whole separate area. Really important.
But
really important.
This is giving them something, because what I've heard more often than not are people saying, I know somebody that's in this, or I'm in this, or I'm gonna be in this. So
ideally you would want people who are eager to learn and expand their own breadth of experience.
Right. So just like we've talked about in mindset and game plan, this is a critical part. This goes right to the essence of sharing this experience, but it requires guidance and learning. And people don't,
I mean, it's always, I've always felt, either when going to a meeting to seek funding for a project, or anytime I feel like I've been asking somebody, or I want something from somebody, I've always been, in every effort, tried to make them understand that I'm giving them something.
Right.
And in this case, you're not walking with a hat in hand and say, please help me.
No doubt.
Let me help you, help me,
No doubt. You are giving, and it's a win-win. So people have to understand that it's a win-win. And a huge part of that is sharing with them this experience and how to do it, what you need, how they can help you, because they want to help.
Yeah.
So, I mean, on the help, there are many different aspects to this. There is the people that create, helping you with food. There are people that can give you some time, even in
I
giving
think
you
that's clearly a huge thing for somebody like yourself and millions of others
millions.
like you.
And so, even giving time, well,
Need
what does that
somebody
mean?
to spell them.
That means scheduling people that sign up for 4 times a year to come for a couple of hours. That means getting people that are ready to pitch in with, on a more near-term basis where you all of a sudden know you're going to need somebody
Give me
that
an
week.
hour.
You have an appointment you have to go to. That's also getting a list of people that you can call in 15 minutes with an emergency to help drive to the doctor or do something. And
Yeah.
I think of it in terms of your bullpen.
Yeah.
You got long relief, short relief, and the fireman.
Get one out.
Get one out.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is also a
But-
part of that network.
The point is, to continue the metaphor, each of those guys wants the ball.
Right?
So you want people who want the ball. You
Correct.
want them to want to be here, who want to spell you, who see it as not just like, oh my God, what am I going to do while I'm there, to I'm going.
Right.
Let's make it work.
Yeah. And so this is family and friends. Family can be the trickiest part of this because they have so much more, emotion about this
yeah.
and feelings and history. And,
true.
I find it curious that, for my daughters, for example, obviously they love their mother who's mattered so much to them.
Yeah.
They're also the most anxious about asserting themselves in this sharegiving relationship. And they really need to be trained how to do this like anybody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they got several other layers to go through before. I mean, yeah, somebody who's been your friend and Barbara's friend for a long time can take a little more pragmatic view of the situation, whereas your daughters still see their mother who doesn't either recognize them or, has lost that relationship.
So, for example, because I've thought about how do I do this? Well, I need them also to take a different kind of responsibility. Something might happen to me, where I am like in the middle of this, or, not necessarily that I'm dead, but that maybe I am diverted.
Jeez,
or
this
this
is
or
taking
that.
a turn for the dark. No, I mean,
No,
it's
I don't plan on it.
Yeah, I
but
know.
okay.
I
So
know.
maybe I assign to Sam to be in charge of, and therefore she needs to know everything about health. She becomes the health proxy. She needs to know the meds. She needs to know the names of the doctors and this and that. Maybe Molly becomes the person that's responsible for the legal issues. She needs to know where the wills are and the this and the that, and these are things of being part of the personal support.
I mean, that's
network.
arguably something everybody should do who has kids.
Right.
But I think particularly in your case.
Right.
because
But these are things that, and maybe my other kid is in charge of the network of friends. But they need to be involved. They can't be outside of this. And I'm just, again, speaking from my own view, but I realized this when I was creating the map of what I need.
Yeah.
And that need has to imagine different contingencies, right?
I think I don't think you've had that conversation with
No.
your girls, and I think it's going to be difficult. That's going to be a tough row to hoe, and their indoctrination into sort of changing their perspective and finding something positive or a way of helping in the care of their mother, as diminished as she may be, is important as can be and as difficult as can be.
Correct. So, I have gone through this process, pretty laboriously of creating this map and putting names to who is responsible for what and whatever else I might need. And that also has caused me to realize that I got to go to all the professionals, Anita the lawyer, Colleen the doctor, Sally the neurologist, to know that I'm including them as part of this network. I mean, and then there's other extensions. Who else is in my personal network as a caregiver? Well, there's also that subject of my
Hello.
my baby brother.
I'm in the bullpen somewhere.
He's in there for sure.
That can be long
For
relief.
sure, and I'll craft a job for you, but there's a whole nother subject when I talk about myself as caregiver, making my life better and easier, and that's
So for this in this moment, speak to somebody watching who maybe doesn't have, even doesn't have any 3 kids or even the network you have. Just give them a little nutshell version of what they should think about making sure they're prepared.
Here's the nutshell. Build your own network. Think about what that means. Make a map of who it is that could help you and what kind of help you think you might need.
I guess if I can interrupt for a second, part of the mindset is understanding you need help.
You need help.
And being okay with asking people
Right.
to help. Understanding they really want to help.
You need help because, and this is something my daughter said, if something happens to you, we're all screwed.
Well, yeah, but that's in the worst case scenario. Best case scenario is you need help.
Yeah.
It's a hard job.
You need help, but you need help because you got to stay healthy too. You got to stay healthy.
And creating that network and that map will help you stay healthy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really fundamental. So, I mean, that's what caregiving is about, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
about the caregiver who is at risk
Yeah. That's true.
because
That's true.
or she is
That's
overwhelmed
a
by this job.
fundamental
That's the driver.
characteristic
That's
of
the
this,
driver of what
that
we're doing.
caregivers can find themselves in deep trouble.
Correct. So, what are we saying? Mindset. Learn how to build your own resilient growth mindset.
And
Game
view
plan.
your challenge as a challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
Game plan. Having a plan.
Yeah.
And you have
That's
a good idea of what you're
invaluable.
doing and have a lot of tools at your disposal
and
to
a
do
plan as to an overall approach, as well as getting down to the minutia,
Correct.
hour to hour, day to day.
it. And then networks is huge, and we haven't talked
Global
about
network.
the global, but the personal network, I would say there are really 2 aspects. There's friends and family, and there's professionals. And they cross over. The
Yeah.
professionals need to know about the network
Well,
you're creating.
Well, they're also
and the friends and family.
Those are relationships too.
They're relationships.
Yeah.
So the caregiver needs to think about that map of all the people on the
Relationships.
team. It's a team, and needs to understand that yes, you're asking, but you're giving, and it's a win for everybody. You are connecting people, and a big thing is you need to reconnect. You need to validate people when they do the job. You need to appreciate it, which is a big deal.
It is.
You need to maintain that connection so that
These are such sort of big concepts that we always assume everybody understands, but
we're going to have this all written out on
Right.
our website, in our book.
well, I mean, even the importance of saying thank you is
Thank
something
you.
that a lot of people
You
do
did a
not.
phenomenal job.
I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, I mean, you do
And they're
this
going to
great.
say, let me know when I can come back.
Exactly. So it's huge. And another aspect to this before we get to global
Yeah.
is very personal. And you know we've talked about this plenty. Part of the Sharegiver's personal network has to be his or her own relationships that are personal relationships.
Yeah.
And this is a subject that we're going to explore that's of critical importance
Yeah.
and yet does not get addressed for
Because it's awkward to talk about.
hugely awkward to talk about. You have a spouse
About
or
relationships
somebody
outside this caregiving
correct,
relationship.
but that are really important for your own health and peace of mind and ability
Yeah.
to do your job.
Yeah, the share culture has a lot of big, basic human.
And we're going to get to this because this is called creating your own parallel life that is alongside of and inevitably integrated with your role as a sharegiver.
Yeah.
So that's a subject that we're going to address, but that's part of your personal network.
Yeah, well, you know, there's so much to talk about in that regard. The other end of it, the other network that is so clearly obvious to me as invaluable to anyone among these 16 million family member caregivers who didn't ask to be family member caregivers, didn't train to be, weren't educated, weren't anticipating. There's 16 million other people in similar situations, and I think that, and that's
with a bullet. It's
with a
going
bullet,
up.
yeah, it's not diminishing. And what I would want to commit to, and I think we do, is actually making hard use of that network. I mean, and part of what we want to do is create a rewards system, a game where you accrue points, and those points get you rewards, dinners, movies. But I would like every time somebody logs on to the global Sharegiver
mutual aid
Solutions network, cha-ching, you know, I don't know how many points they're going to get, but you get points.
Well, we'll get to the reward structure.
I understand, but the idea is use that network. It's there as a powerful
All right, so
tool.
let's talk about what I call the mutual aid network. The personal network, you're asking for assistance, right? Or support that you need.
Or offering an opportunity to help.
Correct. The mutual aid is a specific recognition of all those that are in the same place you are. That, number one, there is tremendous value, validation, solidarity as you start to identify each other and share the experience.
I don't think solidarity I don't think you can place a value on it.
It's huge. It's huge.
It's the difference between feeling alone and feeling like a part of a big group.
Right, and the problem thus far in this world of dementia is that people are islands. They don't really talk about it. There's a stigma attached to it. They're often just so overwhelmed they just can't really think about the idea of aligning with others other than in support groups where it tends to be very localized and commiseration.
Well, I think also it's not easy. We're hoping to make it easy.
It is not easy. So the idea of thinking about this as a mutual aid network where people in your situation are excited about finding out how many there are, finding out how much power they have as a group to advocate for change, advocate for a cure, advocate for prevention. They become ambassadors. They're not all of a sudden any longer just sharegivers with their patient. They are part of a movement. And it has huge consequence, in my view, not only to make the sharegiver better at their job, because people are sharing things that work for them, they're sharing things that they've found to be incredibly helpful, they are sharing contacts or relationships that have that they've learned from,
They're
but
creating,
also
they're establishing
right,
relationships.
but also they are feeling the power of a movement called Sharegiver, and uh, and I think that can have huge consequences, as just in the pure sense of advocacy by itself.
Well, I mean, there's no disputing that, but putting myself in any one of their places, just knowing when I get home after a great day, a tough night, I can go on, log on, and say, has anybody else gotten to wherever you took, whatever the situation is, and been at a loss as to blah, 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 what to do
Right.
next? And 25 people say, I was in the exact same situation. This is what I did.
Right.
All of a sudden, layers of anxiety and distress, I think, have to be
Well, it ties back into mindset too, doesn't it?
totally,
So if you put out to that network, tell us what's worked for you.
yeah.
Tell us what is success.
Even
Tell
better.
us what joy.
Even
you've
better.
experienced.
This is what I did today. I wasn't even planning to, and Barbara reacted, beautifully. We had a fantastic, so you might want to try it.
Or, to that extent, once again, I realized, how did I forget? Barbara was highly agitated, and I wrapped her up in a bear hug, and she squeezed me back.
Yeah.
And I held it for a few
Yeah.
moments, and we
All
were
else
out.
fails, try the hug.
Try the hug.
Yeah.
Try the hand squeeze.
And,
Put on the Four Seasons and dance together.
Yeah, so, as so often happens, I'm constantly reminded of this my whole life, is that most of the information and most of the stuff we're going to impart to people based on your experience and my general experience, they know most of it. They just forgot it. They're not thinking about it. A lot of it is reminding them of big principles of giving, sharing, taking, helping. Again, I've worked with PTSD sufferers, children who have suffered, whose home was blown away by Storm Sandy, and they had to move into some other place, and the parents got angry with each other, and as well as people who have lost kids in the war. And a lot of times when people are absolutely overwhelmed and bordering on hopeless, that their life will ever return to any semblance of happy, is when they come to the realization that they can help other people who are suffering. And again, it's purpose. And I think that comes to play with networks. Not only are you looking for help from people, but you're becoming a helper. You're a sharegiver with all of them. And I think the idea of just sharing, being able to help somebody, or realizing that somebody's out there to help you, has to be the most
Right.
comforting thing in the world.
And when you think about it, what we're really talking about is providing a whole approach to caregiving, in the words of the world, where so many of us are or will be involved. And so when
That's kind of
we're
lurking
talking
in the
about
background.
creating, these building blocks of a successful experience,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
critical.
Well, it's critical, and probably at some point near the beginning, certainly when we begin creating relationships with people, and we hope to do that soon through sharegiversolutions.com, those are relationships that you're beginning to cultivate.
Yeah. Well, and relationships as we start to include professionals in this,
No
who are
question.
psychologists and neurologists and family doctors and therapists
And I think near the, kind of the inception of all these relationships, in addition to just finding out what people's situations are, I guess you do have to think about what constitutes a successful experience. What does success mean?
right.
We know we're not going to cure anything at this point, so what is success? And it has to do with all of these: mindset, game plan, networks.
I mean, to me, success, when we know that 83% of all caregiving in the world we're talking about is provided by family members. And we also know that they're dying, they're getting sick, they're suffering stress, their families are at risk. Success would be for all of those people to feel a certain amount of happiness or joy or satisfaction or fulfillment in this job. Yeah,
It's a purpose, even if you didn't ask for it.
right. And the only way you can even start to approach enjoying this very hard job is having a sense of how to do it, how to approach it, how to think about it, how to implement it, execute it, how to get help to enable you to do
in
it.
a sense that,
and ultimately, and this goes to the rewards you were talking about, be rewarded for it.
Yeah.
Not just emotionally, but actually tangibly.
right. And we're, the game and rewards aspect of this, it's not frivolous. It's just another way to help.
It's not frivolous because we also know about human nature. We are trying to induce people to develop habits of learning, habits of growing, habits of paying attention. And the best way to create habit-forming behaviors is to reward it.
And habits of waking up prepared to do whatever you need to do to make it a good day.
Listen, if I know that if I go to level 3 of mindset, I'm going to get points for that. They're going to translate into a movie or a dinner. If I know that I'm going to try the new tool in my game plan toolkit and I'm going to get rewarded for it, if I know that I'm going to introduce another Sharegiver who may be in a different part of the world and I'm going to get points for it as soon as they register,
Yeah.
this is great.
The points are the fringe benefit.
Right. The benefit is that
Is doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, sharing.
But this is a way to incentivize
That's our hope.
Yeah.
That's our goal. That's our game plan.
Yep.
All right, we good today? Have a great Sharegiver day.